the Tennessee Titans are, really bad. Man, what's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Titans Rundown. I'm your host, Mike McCamey, and what is there to say anymore, honestly? This team is just horrible. I don't know how else to put it, quite honestly. They're just not good. And I don't know what else to say anymore because they're giving me less and less to talk about each week. So, let's just move on to the actual episode itself, going through the positives, then going through the negatives, and then we'll talk about some other things after the episode of positives and negatives is over. But, okay, we're going to go through this quickly because there are a lot of other things that I want to get to. So, first off, let's look at the positives, okay? Even though I do think the comeback was fake, I do appreciate the late surge. The game stayed entertaining throughout the entire thing because of that late surge, and it honestly had me interested at the end of the game. So, happy about that. Now, do I think that the comeback was fake? 100%. The Colts had already taken their foot completely off the gas. You saw on that last drive, if this was truly a comeback, they would have at least stopped them right there. But since it wasn't a real comeback, at least in my opinion, they didn't. They didn't stop him on 3rd and 7 whenever, the play calling became unpredictable again, what they were going to do. So there was that, but I still appreciate it anyway. But also, Tyjae Spears, his stats weren't amazing or anything. They weren't just oh my gosh, 10 rushes for 27 yards. Holy cow. No, but no, they weren't that impressive, but he did score a lot of touchdowns. He had one really nice receiving touchdown. He fought for every yard. That dude is a garbage time king. I can tell you that right now. You could tell last week and you can tell this week. Okay. Just appreciate his effort. He was the reason that this game even got competitive in the end. So I appreciate that from him. Anyway, next thing, Calvin Ridley. He only had 3 receptions, but he had 78 yards on those receptions, and he had a touchdown from a beautiful throw from Rudolph, but still he got at least open enough, and I don't know, I just really appreciate that he's at least still giving his effort even whenever he could just roll over and die. Some of the signings that were made this offseason were pretty decent, and some of them weren't, but we can get to those at some other point. But overall, Calvin Ridley, pretty decent game. Hopefully we can get him to 1,000 yards, so that way that contract doesn't look completely stupid. I mean, I'll be honest, no matter what, I think it's still a win, no matter what, with Ridley, because I think that he's been very good all season. Yes, all season. I know those first few weeks it didn't look so much that way, but I still think he was solid. It's just that his quarterback play wasn't, to say the least. You saw it happen whenever Rudolph went in. He immediately had his biggest game of the year. Immediately. He had one hiccup against the Bills, but after that, immediately. No, anyway, next thing, NWI continues to be one of the sunshines in this horrible, horrible season. I feel like that he's consistently being on here. He got a touchdown again, and he had one really nice reception to keep a drive alive later on in the game. Overall, solid game by NWI. I don't know what else to say. Again, we're snapping through these, okay? Because, honestly, the next whole section is a 20-minute video alone or episode alone. So we gotta wait on that, and we gotta rush through this. So next thing. One more positive. Cedric Gray. This is why we've been wanting him in. He had 6 tackles. He looked pretty solid out there, and he looked better than James Williams, and heck, he may have even looked better than Jerome Baker, quite honestly. He looked not half bad, honestly. And I feel like there is something to build on with Cedric Gray. I feel like that he definitely can be something by next year. I don't know why our coaching staff hates him so much. Look, I understand he didn't get off to the hottest start in training camp, and he didn't really get to show you what he could do in preseason, but he's played pretty decent. He played pretty decently yesterday, which, keeps making me question this coaching staff, but we'll get to them later. Okay, first thing for the negatives, okay, because we're moving on to the negatives. First thing, the run D. I had to get this one out of the way first because it's the obvious one. 300 yards of rushing. We let up the most rushing yards in Tennessee Titans history yesterday. At least yesterday as of the time I'm recording this. You get the point. But, gosh, man, I don't know. If that's not a sign of other things, then I don't know what is. It was pitiful. It was sad. I know T'Vondre Sweat only had one eye in this game, but even then, you shouldn't let up 300 rushing yards, even with a couple of backups. It's ridiculous. You cannot let that happen. I still think that we have a good D-line coach in Tracy Rocker. I still think D-line has potential to be really good, but we need an edge in the draft, which is why I'm officially endorsing Abdul Carter to be the edge for the Tennessee Titans in 2025. Okay, like, I'm done. I'm sick of it. Okay, like, even with another person's big problems on this roster, it still is so annoying to watch the edge just bring down this entire defense, the pass rush, bring down this entire defense. Like, this defense, I think, has potential to be, like, really good. The only problem is that we don't have a game-changing edge rusher. That's a big problem. That's a big no-no. Okay, big no-no. Like, just take a look at the offseason. Just take a look at some of the options that we have in the offseason. It's either Abdul Carter or we go get a free agent, and the free agents aren't that inspiring. So we got to go get a rookie that has big upside, and I know Tracy Rocker can develop him, especially whenever he has talent. Like, we've seen him develop other talented linemen, D linemen before. We saw him do it with T'Vondre Sweat. So give me Abdul Carter. If what we expect, what is thought of to happen this offseason does happen, retain Tracy Rocker. Yeah, that's basically a spoiler for what could happen. But reobtain Tracy Rocker and Denard Wilson and let them work with this defense, because I think it has huge potential. It's just that, first off, it's really hard to fight for an offense like this. And second off, they don't have a game-changing edge rusher. Like, I know that there's a problem at right tackle. Yes, I said, okay, NPF is the problem on offense. But, like, even with that problem, I still think that edge is bigger. I know that's shocking. And also, like, Jedrick Willis is available in free agency. So, like, of course, I would way rather have Jedrick Willis on this roster than anybody else, quite honestly. Anybody in this right tackle room specifically. I would rather have him than anybody in the draft. I would rather have him than anybody in free agency. I'd rather have nobody but him on this roster. That one was obvious enough. But, okay. Yeah, no, run D was awful. I know that I started talking about the pass rush, but, like, run D was still awful. And here's the thing, with an edge, that can still help because they're going to be trying to double team him because they're scared that he's just going to go havoc and just ram right in there. But obviously I had to get the first one out of the way. Second one kind of goes with the first one. It's the fight that this team had. Disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful, especially right at the beginning. Like, I get, like, earlier on in the game, whenever you were later on in the game, they were trying to fight. Like, I'm just telling you, the fight for this team was not that good, especially at the beginning of this game. They rolled over and died immediately. Like, and you can look in the locker room, there's clear frustration from Big Jeff and the rest of the locker room. Like, this team is slowly starting to become a team that is lost, a team that doesn't have a good locker room. This team is slowly starting to evolve into the Browns, or the Browns before they got Kevin Stefanski, or they're starting to become the Giants right now, and I don't want to be that. You see, these are the signs that show you that there are bigger problems here. Anyway, next thing, Mason Rudolph threw 3 interceptions. Okay, we weren't expecting him to just come out here and throw 4 touchdowns, but, like, oh man, I was really just hoping and praying that he was going to do something, but especially after the Vols game on Saturday. Don't worry, I will talk about that on the Vols rundown, which, by the way, I'll have linked in the description. Just wanted to get that out there. The Vols rundown will be linked in the description, so you can go check that out if you want to. Yeah, overall, gosh, the fight on this Mason Rudolph was also really bad. But next thing, the pass rush was really bad. Okay, I think I already talked enough about that, so we'll just leave that there. Pass rush was really bad. Okay, next thing, Nicholas Petit-Frere. And we're also going to bundle this in with the entire O-line in general. But, like, this team is being held back, except for the left side. Left side played pretty decent. Center wasn't really that great. Right guard and right tackle were pretty bad this game, quite honestly. But we need some big improvement on the right side of the O-line. I think that the O-line is actually one good right tackle away from being pretty decent, like, quite honestly. I mean, I will say, I am pretty upset about the fact that if what happens does happen, we won't be able to get Bill Callahan back because there's only one reason that he came here. But I think Malarkey can coach these guys up just fine. But again, this O-line playing pretty bad, specifically the right side. The left side's actually been pretty decent. I think that Skoronski had another pretty good game. I'm not 100% confident on that. Correct me if I was wrong on that. But I'm pretty sure he had another pretty good game. I think Latham had another pretty good game. That right side is holding this line back from actually being very solid. Overall, O-line. But obviously got to get into the last thing, the coaching staff. Again, I can't tell you if the play calling is absolutely disastrous because I don't know that much about the schematics of football. But I can tell you when a team comes in unprepared. I can tell you whenever the game plan is off. If the game plan was off, this team came in completely unprepared. Actually, this team came in not wanting to fight for this coaching staff. Okay, that was something that really put me off, especially last week whenever they did not fight at all for Callahan. That's a problem. This is a big problem that we have with fight, with competitiveness, with other things. I know that everybody's just like, oh, it's Callahan's first year. Give him some time. Okay, let's compare him to another first-year head coach, Dave Canales. Look, his team has been competitive. His team has been solid. That's an example of a team with a bad record that's heading in the right direction. Canales is looking like he may have been the steal of the offseason as a head coach, quite honestly. And I'm really upset that we didn't even look at him for 5 seconds. It was kind of upsetting to me, at least. But I don't know what else to say, man. This coaching staff just doesn't have the sauce. I'm sorry. Specifically, the man in charge, Brian Callahan. I think Denard, I know that he's getting a lot of flack right now with how the defense has been playing, but first off, it's really hard to be a solid defense whenever your offense is practically dead. Or it's hard to play hard whenever your offense is practically dead. It's hard for a defense to put in the effort to be solid. But second off, I feel like Denard's got the stuff. I think he is a solid defensive coordinator who is trapped with a bad football team right now. I think that he could be pretty decent. It's just that he's got to get a competent offensive mind alongside him before we can even say, oh yeah, no, this dude, he's great. But again, Brian Callahan, man, I don't know what else to say anymore. Here's the thing that makes me upset, though. That's the end of the positives and negatives. But this is the thing that makes me upset. We might actually keep Callahan for another year. It's not what I want. Neither is it what the fan base wants. I know this. And I don't even think it's what owner Amy Adams Strunk wants. But we got to think about some of the factors. You fire Callahan after being a year one head coach. You fire Mike Mularkey after a playoff win. You fire Mike Vrabel after having a couple of down years. And this is going way back, and I know that these years were absolutely disastrous for the team. But you fire Ken Wisenhunt after a year and a half. Obviously, that one was set in stone that, he needed to go. But, again, you do all that stuff after a couple of years. If you fire a year one head coach after 1 year, then you start to get the reputation around the NFL from head coaching candidates of she's not patient enough, she isn't giving any head coach a chance, she's just going to fire you if you have one bad year. You start getting that reputation slowly but surely. Dave Canales, in Carolina, for example, Tepper is not going to fire Dave Canales after this year, even if their record sucks, because he's seen improvement in the team. That's what it seems like, at least. But he gained that reputation after firing Matt Rule after 2 years, after firing Frank Reich after 1 year, and firing Ron Rivera after a couple of very successful years with the Carolina Panthers. So we got to think about that. Her reputation's at stake. She's still going to be paying Mike Vrabel and John Robinson, and there's a very good chance that Callahan is coaching this team next year, which I hate to say. But if he is not, if Amy Adams Strunk just is I don't care about my reputation, and everybody else is just you know what, we're right there with you, and we have head coaching candidates of our choice, then these are the 5 that I would go with. Okay, so I gotta write some notes on these guys, but while I'm saying that, first off, I'm going to go through the unrealistic ones, the ones that there's no chance that we get. We're not getting Ben Johnson. We're not getting Mike Vrabel back. That one was obvious enough. And we're not getting Kyle Shanahan. I know that everybody wants Kyle Shanahan right now because they're thinking, hey, maybe he gets fired after this year, or maybe he wants to leave San Francisco, but like he's not. Either he's not going anywhere or he's going somewhere that's not Tennessee. Mike Vrabel, that one was obviously set in stone. Ben Johnson already denied us last year whenever we were looking for a new head coach. He just basically was like, yeah, no, he avoided the Titans in general. So he doesn't want to be a Titan. There's something about us that he doesn't like. That's a big problem. Okay. So yeah, those three aren't happening. And also stop it with the Deion Sanders stuff. Like we would get a lot of money off of it and we would probably be the most marketable team in the NFL, which honestly has been something that I've been wishing for. But we would be the laughing stock of the NFL. Like, let's be real. Like, I don't think anybody would like watching us. But okay, let's get into the realistic candidates. Okay. At number 5, I have Aaron Glenn, Lions defensive coordinator. Look at this, okay? I think this is going to be crazy to y'all. I think that Aaron Glenn has the ceiling of Dan Campbell. I know how insane that sounds. Like, I know that I just sound like the biggest idiot right now. But I'm just saying, like, I think he has the fire that Dan Campbell has. I think that he is overall a very good defensive coach, and he seems very rough and tough. And I don't know, I just really am interested in that. Like, obviously, grit and grind teams, they're very boring to watch. But, like, this is one to watch out for because after this Brian Callahan catastrophe, if he did end up getting fired this offseason, we got to think about the fact that Amy Adams Strunk may want to go back to her old ways instead of trying to modernize. And she's just like, you know what? I messed up getting away from the grit and grind. It's who we are. Let's go with another grit and grind coach. And Aaron Glenn is the perfect definition of that. But I would really like him as a head coach, honestly. Like, I know he's older than Vrabel, and it's just like you could have kept Vrabel, but instead you got an older version of him. But, like, I don't know. He just seems like a very interesting candidate to me. I think the only reason that he hasn't been hired yet is because of the fact that he has not had good defenses over the past couple of years. But now he does have a good defense, which makes me think that he could be gone after this offseason. Anyway, I forgot to mention the honorable mention, Mike Kafka, offensive coordinator for the Giants. That's the reason that he's an honorable mention, is because he's the offensive coordinator for the Giants. But I do think that he has some interesting qualities about, like, I think he is a decent offensive mind. It's just that he's been stuck with that quarterback situation. And Brian Daboll, I think he's a great offensive mind, but he is not great with calling the shots as a head coach, as in, like, should we cut Daniel Jones? Should we bench ... Like, I don't know. I just think that he's not good at being the head guy. So I would be interested to see what Kafka would look like in that situation, because I think he's a good offensive mind. It's just I would be interested to see what he would be like as a head coach. Anyway, okay, so that was the honorable mention. I already mentioned Aaron Glenn at number 5. Number 4, Zach Robinson, Falcons OC. Okay, most of these are going to be offensive minded, okay? Like, there are 2 defensive minds on here. The rest of them are offensive minded. Okay, Zach Robinson. This doesn't have anything to do with what he's done in Atlanta. Well, even then, he still has tried to do as much as he can with the offense that he had been given with Kirk Cousins, who hasn't really been playing that great, and with Bijan, who hasn't lived up to expectations. O-line has been meh, and just overall a mediocre offense. He's made at least decent, but this mostly has to do with the fact he's from the McVay tree. I mean, anybody that McVay just breathes upon ends up becoming a solid offensive mind and a solid head coach. So, like, I genuinely feel like that he could be, like, the next big offensive mind. But I'm putting him at number 4 because even with him doing what he can with the Falcons offense, it still hasn't been perfect. Like, it still hasn't been like, oh my gosh, they're so top tier. Like, it's been nothing like that. So that's why he's at number 4. Number 3, Jesse Minter, defensive coordinator for the Chargers. Okay, I'll just say this. First off, he has connections with the Harbaughs. The Harbaugh tree is also a tree that produces very solid head coaches usually. But also, he has made gold with Elijah Moulton and Christian Fulton in a secondary, starting, not rotational players, starting. So imagine what he could do with this talented defense. We know how hard it was to get stuff out of Christian Fulton and Elijah Moulton. So, like, imagine what he could do with a Sorry, a roster like this. Just saying. But that's really my entire reasoning. But also, he seems like he does have some decent fire to him. I'm looking at fire for these because I thought Callahan was going to be fiery whenever he first got here, which honestly, he is fiery on the sidelines. Like, he's not like, whenever they go into the locker room and he does a post-game speech, like, I don't know why, it just feels awkward. Like, it doesn't feel like he has command over that locker room like a Dan Campbell or like a Kyle Shanahan or heck, even like a Shane Steichen. Like, it doesn't feel like that he is awesome with those situations, Like, I feel like that we need somebody that's more fiery than him, honestly. But, or somebody that can at least take command of a locker room. Like, heck, even compare him to first-year coach Dave Canales. I know it sounds like I have a man crush on Dave Canales. Like, don't get me wrong. He's fun to watch, and, I don't even think he was honestly the best head coaching hire this year. That was obviously Jim Harbaugh, but, like, he was definitely up there for one of the best head coaching hires. So, what I was saying, though, was that, like, whenever I've seen his post-game speeches, he always brings a little bit of fire. He seems very happy. Like, the players seem like they, like, really, really love him. Like, it doesn't feel like that manufactured love that Brian Callahan and his players have for him. Like, it feels real whenever I watch his post-game speeches. With Callahan, it just feels awkward and weird. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. But anyway, moving on to number 2, Liam Cohen, offensive coordinator for the Bucs. He got everything that he could out of Levis in college. He's honestly probably the reason that Levis is even an NFL player right now, or at least has started in the NFL right now. He's gotten a lot out of Mayfield. He wasn't that great with the Rams, but also that was a really bad year for the Rams. So I do think that was a hiccup, and I think that he is a great offensive mind who could get the most out of his quarterbacks, honestly. Now, do I know what he does in the film room? I'm going to leave that up to somebody that's smarter than me. But the truth is, I still think that he would be a very solid head coach, and that's why he's at number 2. Number 1, okay, these were in no particular order because whenever I was halfway down the list, I just thought, wait, I'm just listing these guys off. But at number 1 is Joe Brady, Bills offensive coordinator. Dude, I've been loving Joe Brady since he was the passing game coordinator at LSU. He came in, was the offensive coordinator for the Panthers, had a weird time there. Like, he had a very solid quarter. Like, he made Teddy Bridgewater look a lot better than he actually was. But then Matt Rule and his ideas clashed, which led to his firing. Then he went to go be the quarterbacks coach for the Buffalo Bills. Everybody thought, oh, Josh Allen's regressed. That probably means Joe Brady isn't really that great. Then the Bills fire Ken Dorsey, which leads to him being the interim OC. He absolutely kills it with them. And then he gets the permanent OC job. And now Josh Allen is playing the best football of his career, potentially, maybe. Depends on how you see it, but I feel like personally he's playing the best football of his career right now. So what gives? Well, I think that what gives is that Joe Brady is a great offensive mind who hammered into Josh Allen's head, keep the ball protected. Sorry, Derrick Henry. But, like, you get what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that he hammered that into his head, and it makes me think, maybe he had something to do with Josh Allen looking like an MVP candidate again. Because, like, for the past couple of years, he had looked like a really, really good quarterback, but he hadn't looked like he was going to win an MVP. He looked like the Jim Kelly, or I think it's Jim Kelly, right? Quarterback for the Bills in, like, the 90s that went 0 for 4 in the Super Bowl. He looked like he was going to be that, like, always really good, but never the top guy. But Joe Brady has helped him be elevated into that. But anyway, that was no particular order. If you want me to put it in a specific order, Joe Brady, I think, is actually number 1 after talking through it. Then at number 2, I'd probably have Minter. Then number 3, I'd have Robinson. Then Aaron Glenn, and then Liam Cohen. Like, I really like Liam Cohen, don't get me wrong, as an offensive mind. But, like, I don't know if he is head coaching material, Like, I think that those other 4 are more head coaching material than he is, quite honestly. But that's just my 2 cents. Anyway, that's today's episode. I told y'all we had a lot to get through. This episode has been running really long, and I apologize for that. But I don't know. We just had a lot to get through with the coaching candidates, with the positives and negatives of today's game. Mike Kafka. I don't know why I said Mike Kafka, but it was the one thing that I saw in my paper. Can you blame me? But that's today's episode. Next episode, we'll be talking about positives and negatives, but then we'll also be talking about GM candidates because, let's be real, if Callahan goes, that means Carthen is also gone. That's just the truth. But anyway, that's going to do it all for me. Actually, no, wait. I have Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter all under the Titans Rundown if you want to go check those out. Also, if you want to see the Vols Rundown, I have that linked in the description. New episode will be out as of the time that I'm recording this today, but as of the time that this is out, it would have been out 2 days ago. So, what are you doing? Go watch the episode, all right? But anyway, that's going to do it all for me. This has been a rundown of your Tennessee Titans. I love y'all. Tighten up.